Hi, I'm Sharon Spangler. Welcome to this Council Connection. I'm here at Reno City Hall with Council Member Dave Aiazzi. Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a subject that really affects everyone in the Truckee Meadows, the deconsolidation of the Reno Fire Department with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. And this was a decision by the Washoe County Commission, but it certainly has a huge impact on the city of Reno. Before we get into how you feel about this, Dave, which I'm sure you've got some opinions on, I think we should first talk a little bit about the logistics. How much time is left before this goes into place?
They have until June 30th of next year to put something in place. So July 1st, they're supposed to stand up their own fire department and have that working as of then.
And so what all goes into place? Obviously, this is the dissolving of an agreement that's been in place for quite a while with the city of Reno. What happens, and what happens to the firefighters that have been working for the city of Reno that came over from the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District?
Well, there's a couple answers to that question, different parts of it. The original agreement had that any Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District employee who came to Reno would have to be offered their job back. So they will have to offer those people their job back. They don't have to take it, but they have to be offered that job with the salary they're making now. So they have the option to move over to the county to do that. If they don't move over, then they stay here at the city of Reno. But since we won't have as much service territory to cover, we won't need as many firefighters as we have now. So the issue is, will the people who would probably be laid off from the city at the bottom tier, they would hopefully be offered jobs at Truckee Meadows so they could just have a lateral move and go over into that position over there. That's something we talked about last week at the Joint Fire Advisory Board. When is the county going to actually make these offers to sort of let the employees have an idea of what their future holds? We don't know at the city right now.
It's my understanding they're about to hire their own fire chief soon.
Well, that's been postponed. I mean, they were going to do that in October, and now it's been put off till February or March, if that's what they told us last week. So, I mean, the very first thing they were going to do is already behind by 6 months.
So does it look like it's going to come to fruition as fast as the county thinks it will?
Personally, I don't see how, but they have not been very forthcoming in how this is going to happen. I mean, they haven't been letting us in on any conversations, or even their fire chief, about how it's going to happen, who are they going to hire, are they going to be under a union contract. They haven't been telling the public any of those things.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you see some positive advantages for the city of Reno?
Not really. I mean, we've had to pare down in the contract. This is the part of this I don't understand. In the downturn in the economy, the city of Reno, as everyone knows, has pared back our fire service. But according to the contract, we could not pare down what Truckee Meadows was getting. So they have been still getting the same fire service that they got 10 years ago. It hasn't been reduced at all. So then they said that they were going to lose $350,000 a year, I think it was, in 3 years if they don't do something. That's their rationale for getting out of this contract. But they never took any austerity measures now. As the property values dropped down, they didn't brown out any stations, or none of that stuff happened. We just had to continue to do that. And the cost for them to unwind this by their own reports is about $1.2 million just to unwind it in this year. It makes absolutely no financial sense to me what the county's doing, but they have the right to do it. I'm not trying to talk them out of doing it. I think they're making a huge mistake.
I know we were both around when Reno consolidated with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, and it was my understanding that the consolidation in the short run was expensive because we had to bring the Truckee Meadows firefighters up to the same benefits that the Reno firefighters had. But over the years, the consolidation has actually saved money, and it was really in with the thinking of let's make government smaller, find ways to consolidate services.
That was the original intent, and I think it's worked out very well. Because what happens when you do this contract, you just didn't have to build 2 fire stations, within a quarter of a mile of each other. So having that unity there is what's helped. Also, being able to address all of the firefighters going out to a fire, you could solve that problem. I think the same things apply now that applied before. That we get better service. It's not necessarily about money, and that's the part that sort of irritates me as a city councilman, a Reno city councilman. The county's making decisions based primarily on money, not what's best for the community. But they're going to come back to us, the city of Reno, and tell us we have to do the right thing. For instance, our fire chief has identified 3 basically islands of Washoe County Fire District within the city of Reno. For Collin Ranch. A lot of people don't know a lot of that is in unincorporated Washoe County. Collin Ranch and Hidden Valley also. The nearest fire station that Washoe County has to them is Sun Valley. So if there's a fire there, are they going to wait for Sun Valley to go down to respond, or are they going to expect the city of Reno to respond to them? Now, if I'm the council member and I just say, hey, this is only about dollars, I'll take the same thing the county commissioners are doing, we're not responding anymore. You guys are going to have to figure that out on your own. But they're counting on us to do the right thing. The other island is around Zalesi Lane area, where their nearest station, I'm not sure where their nearest station is to Zalesi Lane, it's even further away. And so that's a huge problem that the commissioners have, is how do we deal with those islands in there, and how is that going to be fair about how that goes? Also, when we do these reciprocating agreements, is we'll respond to you, well, the whole county deal is we want to respond with 3-man crews. So we respond to their fires with 4-person crews, and that means that we can go in and fight the fire inside a building the second we get there. But they'll respond with 3-person crews, which means they cannot go inside that building unless there's someone, they know someone is in the building. They cannot go in there to start fighting the fire. So how is that fair to the Reno resident in that regard? So there's a lot of stuff in here that we have to talk about and think about how we're going to handle this.
Which leads to my next question. Is the city going to have to work out some new mutual aid agreements with Washoe County? And what happens to all of the other things that go on in which the fire departments all work together when there's like a hazardous spill or something like that?
Well, I think we are going to have to work out a new agreement, and those, we're just bringing up some of the issues that we're going to have. So that will have to be signed and ratified, and see how that's going to work. As far as everybody working together, I think that the people on the ground will still work together, but it's just how quickly they get to a scene. For instance, right now our agreement with the city of Sparks, when they have a fire, we send 1 truck. And when the truck gets there, their fire chief calls our fire chief, they figure out they need more, and then we send more. And I don't know how long that could take. What we do now with Truckee Meadows is, if there's a fire and everyone else is not busy, we'll send 4 trucks. And knock the fire down and get it out quickly. So you don't have to have that hassle in the middle to get that done. That's all going to go away. I mean, at the county commission meeting when they voted to get out of the contract, they said on the public record that they're going to get reduced level of service by doing this. Wow. A reduced level of service. But they're doing it for those people at Arrow Creek. The Arrow Creek people wanted it. Not one person was complaining from the Washoe County District about their fire service. Not one person ever complained. But about 4 or 5 people did in the Arrow Creek, which is not in Washoe County. It's in a whole nother one, Sierra Firefront. They complained, and they got the county commission to change their votes.
Well, maybe you could explain that to our viewers in a little more depth. How would what the Washoe County commissioners decided to do with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, why would that have anything to do with Arrow Creek if Arrow Creek is covered by Sierra Fire? Or is there some discussion of consolidating those 2 groups?
Well, I'm just speculating because, again, the county hasn't told us exactly what's happening, except I know that there's been no complaints. But what I think is happening is Sierra Firefront District did get a new contract with their fire union. For only 1 year, they could have what they call flexible staffing. And the county will try to piggyback on that agreement to get 3-person crews in the county. But again, that contract's only for 1 year, then the 4-person crew goes back in, as I understand it. But if you're still talking about dollars though, Sierra Fire District is sucking the well dry. They have no money whatsoever. In fact, they just had to borrow money from Washoe County to build that fire station. The chief at one public meeting said in order to man the station in Arrow Creek, since they don't have enough money, they might have to make their station in Washoe Valley a volunteer station and the one in Verdi a volunteer station. So I don't know if the people in Washoe Valley know that, but that's sort of the plan to do that. Now, if they merge with Washoe County, which when we got into this, they were also sucking wind. I mean, they had no money left either. We've saved them a lot of money by doing this consolidation, this contract. So I don't know how you have two groups, both of them losing money, are going to combine and try to say that this is how it's going to be better. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I really don't know how financially that's going to work, unless, again, they're going to lean on the city of Reno to provide most of the services for the three islands I talked about, Zalezi Lane, Hidden Valley, and Collin Ranch. That comprises 18% of Washoe County's dollars for their fire service. So sure, they can make money if they don't provide service to 18% of the people anymore, and they rely on the city of Reno to do it for free. That certainly helps them out a lot.
In some jurisdictions, does a city charge the county when they respond to one of their fires? We don't charge sparks right now, do we, when we go over there and send a truck?
No, but it's pretty basic where we go back and forth. It's pretty even with us and Sparks. But they don't have anybody that would ever respond to Collin Ranch. So there's not going to be a, well, we'll trade here and there. It's going to be, we're the first responder to Collin Ranch. We're the first responder to Hidden Valley. There's not going to be this quid pro quo. We could certainly do that. Interesting, we do that now with Sierra Firefront. They only pay for when they use like dispatch. They don't have to pay a yearly fee. That's just sort of a strange thing to do, but would the county agree to pay it? I don't know. Again, they haven't come to us to talk about these issues. It's the city of Reno that's been bringing these issues up to them to say, how are you going to address this? How are you going to address this? And the only answer we get is, we will.
So in your mind, it doesn't seem that there's a plan that's been thought through very thoroughly as far as how they're going to orchestrate this and how they're going to take care of all of their unincorporated residents.
I'm not saying there's not a plan. I'm saying they haven't made it public to anyone. So they may have a very well thought out plan, but they certainly haven't relayed it to any of the residents in the county. So they may have the best plan in the world. Why, if they do, why they're hiding it to themselves, I don't know. We have asked publicly, what is your plan B in case you don't get something done by June 30th of next year? What's your plan B? And they've told us publicly they do not have a plan B. So if this doesn't happen, what happens? I mean, the whole thing falls apart. But I don't know what happens. If there's a fire somewhere, is the city of Reno supposed to respond? We don't know.
Now, back before the consolidation, was there an operation where Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County all operated separately?
Correct.
And just all helped each other out when there was a fire?
The problem was we both saw that this was coming, that we had to start working more cooperatively and smarter with our facilities and everything else. And quite
County's grown a lot.
County's grown a lot, but the fire protection district was losing money then. That's why they went into this. They were losing money at that time 12 years ago. And since then, they still haven't raised the tax rates in 12 years. In fact, I think they even went down a penny in some, they have a couple different districts. So it hasn't cost them any more to have this service. So they've gotten better service, in my mind, for the same amount of money. I honestly don't figure out why they're doing this, but they are, and they have every right in the world to do it, but they're certainly not telling us how they're going to unwind this deal.
Interesting. Is this going to have any impact on our negotiations or agreements with our firefighters in the union?
No, I don't believe so. I think Local 731 has taken more cuts, I think, than any other union in the state. They came to the table late, but they certainly came to the table with some very positive stuff for us that helped us a lot. Our contract with them clearly states that they will be the only ones that provide fire service in the city of Reno. So some people are thinking, well, it's this big deal where the county will set up another thing and then Reno will contract out with the county. That's not going to happen.
In summary, do you feel that the residents of Reno will continue to get the great fire service that they get right now?
Well, I think that we're going to get it because we have had to make reductions. We're okay financially on that regard, so they'll get the same level of service they have now, which I'm not saying is great fire service because we have had to brown out some stations, but we're not going to have to brown out anymore. One of the positive things about this for the city of Reno residents, again on the financial model, we've been subsidizing the county $800,000 a year. We've been giving them, saying, okay, since we've annexed some of your property, we'll still pay you for that you would have received. We get that back now. So we will get back between $800,000 and $1.2 million per year when we do this deconsolidation, which is next year. So we will make that money back, so hopefully we can open up some of these stations. So I think that we will have better service after this than we have right now.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to add?
The one important thing I think for the people down south that we have to deal with is a station down south, and we're working on that diligently.
Where are you talking about?
Well, probably the DeMonte Ranch area. Right now we're in a station that's by that Walmart over there, but the station is owned by the county and we man it. And if this deconsolidation happens, or when it happens, I should say, we're going to have to leave there. We might try to enter into a long-term lease with someone to stay there for a couple of years. But we're actively working on building a new station down there. And that's maybe where this $1.2 million that we're going to get from the county will go toward getting that station down there sooner rather than later. So that's definitely our area of concern right now, is the southern part of the city, and we're going to make sure that there's a station there.
And do we have some land, or are you talking about possibly the De Loretto property?
Correct. In the De Loretto property, we did a standard of cover and identified 3 or 4 places that we could put a fire station. But we all know we're moving toward building one, and I think that's the land that they're working on right now.
Very good news. Dave has worked so hard on all of the fire issues. You've been involved in fire issues practically since you've been here.
Yeah, I've been on the Joint Fire Advisory Board is an advisory board that was set up just to deal with the contract issues. If there was ever a debate or an argument about what happens, and we've met the whole time, and there's not been one complaint by either side that someone was not doing something according to the contract. So this sort of caught me by surprise that they'd want to pull out. But it's in the contract that they can if they want. But yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it's sort of disappointing to see the county, without even having a joint meeting with the city council to explain why they're doing it, that they would pull the plug. But it's their right to do it. I think they're doing a disservice to the entire community by doing it, but it's their right to do it.
Thank you so much for your input. This is a really important subject for all of us here in Washoe County, and we always appreciate your insight on these issues.
Well, and I'll add one quick thing that we have coming up that's just as important is the REMSA contracts and the health department, because that ties in with fire, because a lot of the fire issues are health related. So we're trying to deal with that through REMSA and the health department too, to try to get better service in the medical response time also.
Great. Ultimate goal, better fire protection and medical emergency service to everyone here in the Truckee Meadows.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us on this Council Connection.